We're back on our travels as we head north for our latest stop on the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship calendar. Welcome to Alton Park, everybody, in the northwest of England, a fabulous circuit and one that always delivers really close racing. 2.23 miles long, the Island Bend circuit here, and it's a great bit of real estate that first hosted the British Saloon Car Championship in 1960 with Tom Ingram, the fastest qualifier here, and Dan Camish, the man who holds the lap record. We come here with the championship having been a real battle so far, with Ash Sutton arriving as championship leader, Tom Ingram second, and a rejuvenated Dan Rowbottom third, ahead of Dan Camish. The reigning champion, Jake Hill, is fifth, ahead of Adam Morgan. Then you've got Josh Cook and Tom Chilton rounding out the top 8. Now, as far as Alton Park is concerned, it is a track that even into the early 1980s was hosting races for contemporary Formula One cars, but as cars have got wider, now Alton Park is considered rather narrow, and that means that qualifying is going to be very important indeed. You've got to be at the front because overtaking around here is not that easy. You need to get your elbows out at the Island Bend hairpin, that's for sure, but if you're starting at the head of the pack, then life becomes a whole lot easier. Ergo, qualifying is really important, and bear in mind all the elevation change here. There are some steep hills, and that's where the extra turbo boost is really going to help as well to drag you up the hill. We've had quite a bit of rain in the last hour or so. The track is damp, but it's so warm and humid, it's drying up very quickly. Bit of a lottery maybe in terms of what we expect in the first group of qualifying. And free practice 2 was also a little bit damp earlier on in the day, at the end of which Tim Harvey and Louise Goodman took their now traditional stroll down the pit lane.
So here we are, Alton Park, halfway point of the season. But before we talk about that, let's look back to the last round at Thruxton with this man, Dan Rowbottom.
That is my name.
That is your name. A great weekend last time out. I mean, you had the win, you had the podium. On top of the previous win at Snetterton, I feel like you're on a bit of a roll at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. You know, we needed a couple of good races. We didn't have particularly good brands, so our points haul wasn't good. We needed to sort of capitalise on Snet and Thruxton. I love Thruxton, who doesn't? So it was happy hunting ground. And yeah, we come off the back of a strong weekend with P3 in the standings, which is good. But obviously Ash and Tom are a bit further up the road, so this weekend's quite critical in either taking some deficit away or not letting it any further.
You rolled the cars out this morning and they were fast straight away. Now, I know everyone runs on their carryover tyres, but everyone's got some pretty good tyres. But it's a lovely feeling when you roll the car out and it's quick straight away.
Yeah, I mean, all three of us were on top form. Car feels great. I mean, you know, this is testament to Paul, really. We've put a lot of effort in over the last 2 or 3 weekends. I just drive it, you know, I point it in the right places, or try to, not very often, but I do sometimes. So, yeah, the car's in a really good position. Obviously, we had a bit of rain then, the car felt great when the track was damp, so at the moment, we've got no excuses.
Just final question, that setup that you and Paul have been looking for to suit your driving style, obviously it worked at Thruxton, but Thruxton's such a unique place. Have you had to change it much for here, or is it just working anyway?
Yeah, no, we did change it. If I'm honest, the setup that we derived for Thruxton, we changed before race 3. I was struggling in race 1 and 2. The car was, I like a loose car, but it was too loose. So we just tightened it up a bit and perfected it. We're back to where we started Thruxton. So the base setup seems to be pretty good.
Well, stop complaining about the heat. You've got the best job in the world, mate.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, it's nice to see him on a roll. Dan Camish as well. I mean, interestingly, they are now 3rd and 4th in the championship. Yeah. And Dan Camish was at pains to point out to me, as is his one. But it was a valid point. You know, we talk about Ash, about Tom, about Jake. But actually, they're in there now, aren't they?
I mean, they've got a fantastic team of winning drivers,
yeah,
haven't they? You know, they can't all be at the front all the time because of the boost system, because of the way it works. But, you know, when one of them is at a handicap, the other one's ready to step up and take the glory. So they're working really well as a team, and it's great to see all drivers, you know, winning races. It makes such a difference to the team.
Have you got any insight into the form here this weekend? I mean, last time out last year, we had 3 different winners across the different races. Are you expecting the same again? Because given the conditions we've had today, it's quite difficult to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm very much in that mould back where we were at Snetterton, for example. So we've got 2 races on the soft, 1 on the hard. That's got to shake it up because the first 3 in race 1 have got to start on the hard tyre for race 2. We saw what a handicap that was at Snetterton. They just fell down the order. So I'm very much expecting 3 different winners. I'm hoping that these guys, the BMWs, can get back in the frame. It's been a strong circuit for BMW before. Remember, Jake Hill won, denying Mikey Doble his first
Yes.
win last year, so I'm expecting the BMs to get back in the hunt this weekend. If they don't get back in the hunt on a circuit that is good for rear-wheel drive on soft tyres in the heat, a little bit similar to Brands, there's even been a bit of resurfacing here, so all those things sort of play into their favour. I'm hoping they can get back in the mix.
We're up here against Speedworks, the local team. A bit of a change here as well. We've got Finn Leslie stepping in this weekend. In fact, I can see him head on over. That's not Finn.
It's James.
James. We were looking for Finn as well. Is he in there?
I think he's...
You have a chat with James.
You come
while
and have a chat. I'll go and get him.
Okay, so you got a new teammate this weekend. Let's talk about your time out first of all, though, because Thruxton, it was there, it wasn't there. It was a real mixed weekend for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, everything was looking really good. Obviously, the race 3 pole after 2 top 10s and a P5 in quali, we were ready. We made a few tweaks as well for race 3, and it looked like we were going to be right up there. I set off, got a decent initial launch, and as soon as I was coming through the revs, it was misfiring, and I knew then, the race was going to be over. I tried the best I could, but 2 laps in, we lost all fuel pressure and had to retire. So gutted, but it happens. Just shame it has to happen when we're at the front. But I think this weekend we're just using that momentum. We've had a good FP2 there in the top 5, so we'll see what happens. Good
luck, have a good one. Home race for the team, as I was saying, and a new teammate as well. Finn, come in and join us. Just tell us, I mean, you are right in at the deep end, aren't you? How much time have you spent in this car? Have you actually worked out where the knobs and dials are yet, let alone how to drive it?
Yeah, just about. I mean, we had shakedown earlier in the week, but I've not driven it in anger around a track yet. Today was my first day doing that. So just getting used to the car, because it's a bit different to my TCR car that I normally drive.
Big moment, special moment. I mean, you've got a great pedigree through karting, making a bit of a name for yourself in the minute you came into cars as well. But how big a step up is this into the BTCC?
Well, it's completely different. You got not just the cars. I mean, you got the fans and the crowds that come with it. You just put under a bigger spotlight than I have been before, and there's a lot more people that have an opinion on what you're doing. So.
Practice your autograph.
Yeah.
Finn, welcome to the BTCC. Tell us how the car differs from the TCC car that you're used to.
It's more just, they're a bit more, I don't know, there's a lot more you can tweak, so you can dial it in more to yourself. Obviously the soft tyre has a lot more grip than what I'm used to, so you can carry a lot more corner speed. So it's just getting used to stuff like that, where you can push the car, where you can't. But until you found that limit, you don't know what the car can do.
And have you thought about how to use that boost in racing and qualifying now?
Yeah, I got the hang of it, I think, now. I struggled a bit in the first session, knowing when where to deploy it. But no, I think I've got the hang of it now.
Now, I did watch your practice start. There's a bit of work to be done there, isn't there?
Yeah, I didn't preload the clutch hard enough, so just let go and start wheel spinning. But need to work on that.
Everyone gets better.
What would be a good result for you?
Some points would be nice on my debut. I mean, there's just still time in me yet. I mean, we're going to improve over the weekend every time we go out in the car. So, yeah, some points would be nice.
That's what everybody wants this weekend, points.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Good luck. Listen, we let you guys go and chat up with your engineers and get yourselves ready for qualifying.
Best of luck for the weekend.
We'll see you out there later.
Yeah.
Over to you, David.
Louise, thanks very much. Right, we're into the final 2 minutes before that green flag to get qualifying underway. And when it does start, we're going to have Group 1 with Chris Smiley having been fastest in FP2. Tom Ingram, Adam Morgan, Gordon Shedden, Dexter Patterson, Dan Rowbottom, Ash Sutton, Tom Chilton, Josh Cook, Jake Hill, Finn Leslie, Nick Hamilton and Stephen Jelly will be the drivers. Stephen Jelly having had all sorts of dramas with a misfire, but then once they started to trace that, they discovered there were other problems. I think an engine change ended up being done, but Stephen Jelly has been rather on the back foot this morning, and in fairness, he's had a really tough season. We've yet to see the best of Stephen Jelly as he tries to get used to front-wheel drive technology once again. Bear in mind as well that we've got the boost to factor in as well, and that is based for qualifying in race 1 and where you are in the championship. So Ash Sutton with 1 second to the 3 of Tom Ingram, 5 for Dan Rowbottom, Dan Camish will have 7, Jake Hill will have 9, 11 Josh Cook 13. We understand Max Hall's car has a problem with the wastegate, but he's not due out until Group 2, so they've got a bit of time to work on that. The car is presented for qualifying. It's on the pit apron as the green light goes on at the end of the pit lane, and we are in business. And Tim Harvey, it is a really humid day. We have had quite a bit of rain in the last hour or so, but it's effectively a dry track.
Yeah, it's effectively dry. the minis that were out just before qualifying were on minis, but the times were getting quicker again at the end, and you can see it just dries so quickly here. The only question is whether within this short time, 10-minute window, the front-wheel drive cars will choose to swap their tyres over to diagonal them, because it's so warm you can get temperature in the rears very quickly, and it will save them a lot of time if they don't do it. But we'll see. Some will, some won't.
So, as the cars then turn their way out of Island Bend, over Hilltop and drop now down towards the Hislops chicane. You're looking there at the Napa Racing UK Fords, Dan Rowbottom and Ash Sutton. Then you've got the Team Virtue Hyundais, or at least 3 of the 4 of them, with Messrs Ingram, Chilton and Morgan all out in this first group. Up Clay Hill, under the footbridge, heading up towards Druids. Great part of the circuit this, with the Knickerbrook corner in the background. That slightly affected, of course, with the Hislop chicane. Used to be a really challenging, fast right-hander.
That shot actually doesn't do that hill justice, you know, it makes it look quite flat, but it's really quite a gradient, and that's why the boost is so effective here, because on an uphill section, any extra momentum is cumulatively added together up that hill.
7 o'clock tomorrow, Running Club. Are you joining us to see how steep it is?
Of course, I'll run downhill.
Good man, good man.
Or roll downhill. Right.
Jake Hill then, number 1. Tough season for the reigning champion. Let's see what he can do here, as into the pit lane comes Dan Rowbottom and Ash Sutton and the Team Virtue Hyundais as well. So that's partly the answer, isn't it, to the tyre crossing situation. In they pour.
Yeah, it could be just because they're not getting as much heating after the damp track, so BMW's on their way, all the front-wheel drive cars coming in. I actually think this group, bit of a slide there, this group of the first group is a really tough group to progress through into the top 6. I reckon, no disrespect to anyone, there's 9 or 10 people here who all think they could get in the top 6. It's a really tough group. That's just how the cards fall after free practice, whether you're an odd or an even finisher.
So it's going to be a very interesting 7 minutes a bit as you see the tyre cross go on for the Hyundai. This is Jake Hill still weaving around and getting the warmth into the tyres. He will do a notional benchmark time, but it's going to be right at the very end, isn't it, where we have the best times being set. Now, Jake Hill stays out. The danger for him is, though, that he's going to get sort of immersed in all of this traffic once they come out of the pit lane.
Yeah, we get this all the time, but it does actually take the BMWs 2 or 3 laps to hit the perfect zone. Some judicious weaving from Hill after that little slide. He has his warning, so he's taken a bit more time to warm his tyres, but even now he's not putting his lights on. He is, there you go. So he's going to be starting a flying lap, but yeah, he's going to come out into traffic.
And lights on means qualifying lap coming up. Right, here he is then, out of Lodge. He sort of pulls the pin now, doesn't he? Accelerates through the corner, through Dearly, up the other side. He will break the timing beam now, and onto a flying lap goes Jake Hill. Clock starts then as he heads down now towards Old Hall Corner. Ignore that previous lap because it was a start-up lap. You can see how that car comes alive, and look, coming out of Old Hall Corner, Chris Smiley and others coming out of the pit lane, but he gets through the traffic. The danger here is going to be if he finds anybody else up the road on a start-up lap, they need to get out of his way.
Yeah, but they all know the routine now. Well, that's all apart from Finn Leslie doing his first BTCC qualifying session. They all know what's coming, so they should be able to stay out of the way. But the road looks pretty clear, just one motorsport car in front.
Which, look, moves to the right, and that's where Jake Hill wanted to be. So he has to dodge round Josh Cook coming down towards Hislops. Josh gets out of the way, and a big lock-up by Jake. He goes straight on. That's that lap ruined.
Yeah, now that was a combination of being a little bit annoyed and a little bit unsighted by Josh Cook. He tried to get a slipstream off him instead of just staying on his line and picking his braking point, and a slight combination of low time temperature and pressure. So it's a bit early for that demon like late braking. Next lap will be on it again. Here we are. He gets a little slipstream, outbrakes himself, then into the corner, cold-ish front tyres, and it's always on the BMW at the fronts that they lock up, so he'll have to carry on and start another lap. Meanwhile, the front-wheel drive cars are already onto their first flying laps.
And that lap of Hill's will be negated because he did not do the correct circuit. That's Ash Sutton diving down towards the Hislop chicane, comes out the other side. Jake Hill's lap was a 1:30, but he was slow in that last sector because he'd been up the escape road. Now, Sutton, remember, has only 1 second of available boost per lap, whereas some are going to have a full 15 allocation. This is Sutton heading up towards Druids. Double apex right, another really good corner.
Yeah, fantastic corner. These cars are all on soft tyres. The car comes alive in warm conditions on soft tyres. It's when they're at their absolute best. Oh, snaking in the race. A little bit of rear lock up there, but he manages, as always, does Ash Sutton, to hold that together. 1:24.1 is the qualifying record, and the first time across the lap is a 24.5. They'll go quicker than that.
They will. So Sutton, Rowbottom, Hill was the order, but Sutton's lap taken off him for track limits then. So Ash Sutton loses the lap time for track limit offences, and that's at turn 2, which effectively is going to be coming out of Cascades.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, does it? And only 4 minutes left on the clock now. He's running out of laps.
Tom Ingram goes up to second then behind Robo, and Jake Hill is hanging on to third as across the timing line goes Tom Chilton to go fastest, 1:24.718. So Chilton, Rowbottom, Ingram, Gordon Shedden up to fourth in the Toyota Corolla. There it is, the car run by the local Speedworks team just down the road. This is Chris Smiley, fastest in FP2. He had a really good top 6 on the road result at Thruxton, then the car was excluded for being underweight, so really frustrating. But look at this from Smiley, purple in 1, purple in 2, crosses the line and goes fastest. Chris Smiley, a 1:24.166 for the top of the times. 3 minutes to go, but we're not done yet, are we?
That's more like it. That's the qualifying record straight away there. Of course, having the amount of boost available really helps here. If you've got the full deployment of 15 seconds, it's worth 0.8 of a second, according to the engineers.
Right, Tom Chilton's lap taken off him. Nicholas Hamilton's last lap taken off him. Again, it's for the dreaded track limit abuses. So right now, Sutton, Chilton, Hamilton do not have a lap. That is Ingram, who is 7th. He's outside the magic top 6. Remember, at the moment, this isn't for pole. This is to get in the top 6 and progress. And as Tim was rightly saying earlier on, some big names. There are going to be lots of losers out of all of this, because to get into that top 6, you've got to be absolute dynamite. This is Ingram then, coming up to the line. He will go across the timing beam and goes second. That puts him in, and that damps out Stephen Jelly.
Yeah, that's a good time, 24.2. That's pretty much bang on the money. We're on board with Sutton here, but remember, Sutton has only got 1 second of boost, and Ingram's only got 3 seconds, so tiny amounts that they can use.
So right now we are going to lose Cook, Hill, Patterson, Jelly, Leslie, Sutton, Hamilton. This is Sutton down towards Hislop's, and then into the right-hander of Knickerbrook.
Personal best through sector 1, but not a purple.
No.
A man going purple is actually Ingram on his next flying lap.
Rowbottom is out now because Hill has gone up to 6th and Josh Cook has gone up to 4th. So it's almost as every car crosses the line that the order is shuffled. In Sutton's favour here is the fact that he's got the road to himself. Look at this, absolutely on the limit, coming out of Druids. Underneath the vehicle bridge, lap time for Rowbottom is disallowed. Lap time also disallowed for Finn Leslie, but Sutton comes into Lodge Corner, lots of curve on the inside, car slightly unsettled, corrects it, nails the throttle coming out of Deer Leap up towards the line. Ash Sutton, 12th at the start of the lap, goes up to 6th. That puts him in, but he's on the bubble because he is only 0.101 of a second quicker than anybody else.
And he crossed the line with just 1 minute 22 seconds to go, so this will be his last lap.
This is Rowbottom, who is now 8th. That means he's out, of course, of the quick 6 that go through. It's all about the 6 in this. Last lap taken off him for track limits. It's Smiley, Ingram. Then Morgan 3rd, Cook 4th, Chilton 5th, Sutton 6th. Up to 9th has just gone Gordon Shedden. Jake Hill, I think, was backed it off. Morgan did a personal, an absolute best, I should say, on his last lap. Rowbottom on this, personal best sector 1. So Robo could be in, and he might even squeeze another lap out of it.
But Shedden's lost that lap time, he drops to the bottom.
Yeah. Right, so Gordon Shedden was in, he's not anymore. He might have time to regroup, but I'm not convinced. This is Rowbottom, so right now he is 8th, and he's got to find a couple of tenths, really, to get in.
Yeah, man, more than capable of sticking it on pole as well, but another big slide. That was similar to what we saw from Ash Sutton, but he hooks up the apex, so no time lost.
And his first win here a few years back comes out of Deer Leap. So Rowbottom is 8th as he heads towards the timing line. He goes through, stays 8th. He's got one more shot. Look, he squeezed through by a handful of seconds, but right now Rowbottom is only 8th in the times. This is Jake Hill, who's 7th, flag out.
The man who is on the charge, though, is Adam Morgan. The third place car set purple first sector speed.
This is Jake Hill, another huge lock-up coming down towards Cascades. And as he did that, Dan Rowbottom had his last lap taken off him as well for track limits at turn 5. So track limits being a real factor in this. Morgan was down in sector 2. And the flag is out, so everybody on a lap now will either take the flag on the road or in the pit lane. Rowbottom still with his lights on, suggesting he's still pushing. Gordon Shedden goes up to 9th, but it's not enough. Behind him, going over the timing line, look, there is Dexter Patterson. Finn Leslie goes through. Patterson 10th, Leslie 12th. So Morgan is the one to watch. He's not done yet. Yes, he is. He's in the pit. So Morgan 3rd, doesn't complete the lap.
Yeah, Ingram, Morgan and Chilton have all come into the pits already.
Which buys them just a couple more minutes, doesn't it, to get ready for the next part of qualifying, even though we've got Group 2 to go. Hill over the line. Does he get in? 7th.
Yeah, that lock-up just cost him, lost a couple of tenths maybe on that, and although it was the inside front wheel, it just cost him a couple of tenths, so Hill does not progress. That's quite a shock, given the level of boost that he had for this session. 9 seconds for a BMW on soft tyres with 9 seconds of boost, not to progress. It implies they've still got struggles here. Their speed just isn't there this year.
But Chris Smiley for Restart Racing, fastest in FP2, fastest in Q1 Part 1. And a great effort then for the Restart Racing Hyundai. There is Finn Leslie, first qualifying effort, and he does not disgrace himself, 11th of the 13. So let's have a look at the order at the end of the first part of qualifying. Chris Smiley the quickest by just over a tenth of a second from Tom Ingram. Adam Morgan is 3rd, ahead of Josh Cook, then Tom Chilton, and the top 6 rounded out by Ash Sutton. And just to prove how competitive it was, Chilton to Sutton, 1,000th of a second separates them. Outside the top 6 then it's Jake Hill and Dan Rowbottom, Dexter Patterson, Stephen Jelly, Finn Leslie and Nick Hamilton, and Gordon Shedden dumped out as well. Well, we knew it was going to be competitive. We knew there were going to be some big names that dropped out, and there's the evidence of it. Right, let's just remind ourselves who, as we complete Group 1, who's going to be out in Group 2. This is based on the other element of qualifying, and that means Aaron Taylor-Smith, James Dorlin, Dan Lloyd, Mikey Doble, Dan Camish, Darryl DeLeon, Senna Proctor, Charles Rainford, Aidan Moffat, Sam Osborne, Max Hall and Nick Halstead will be on track for this next element of qualifying. And it's going to be an even drier circuit. What's really encouraging as ever at Alton Park on qualifying day is how busy it is. People come here and make a real weekend of it, normally in the sunshine. It was very, very hot and sunny yesterday. It has been all week in this part of the world. And it's been a really warm day and warm weekend. And lots of people here enjoying the Cheshire countryside. So this is who you're going to see. Taylor-Smith, Dorlin, Lloyd, Doble, Camish, DeLeon, Proctor, Rainford, Moffat, Osborne, Hall, Halstead. Those are the 12 drivers that we're going to have out for this next part of the session, and the green light is ready to go at the end of the pit lane, so the teams will get, again, just 10 minutes and with lots of Tom Ingram fans pretty happy that their man is through. We can get set then for Q1 Part 2. Remember, again, we want 6 out of this, then we have a 12-car second part and a 6-car shootout, and the teams are ready to push back the BMWs. Darryl DeLeon's car sitting on the pit apron. Green flag waved, and we are good to go then as the Toyota of Aaron Taylor-Smith is pushed back. Dan Camish has been very, very good in qualifying this year, and he could be a man to beat here. So one Dan heads out. There's a disappointed Dan. Dan Rowbottom, he's out of qualifying. He's with Louise.
Dan, just looking at the people taking part in that session, there are always going to be some big scalps going. A tricky one.
Yeah, it was a difficult one. I mean, we're very low on boost. Obviously, myself, Ash, and Tom in the same group. But yeah, we couldn't extract what we could earlier. You know, there's no excuse for that. We weren't as quick as we were in FP2. We weren't as quick as we were in FP1. So we need to look at that. But yeah, it's the best we could do in that session. So we are where we are.
Frustrating. Bad luck.
Thank you.
But we know that he can race, and we'll now start to plan the weekend, looking forward perhaps to race 3. Dan Rowbottom then had his first touring car win here. He was a Team Dynamics Honda driver, and it's an important weekend for the Kidderminster driver. It's not his local circuit per se, but for his long time back at Cataclean that's really helped him to get on the touring car grid in the first place, based down the road in Liverpool. It's very much a home race, so a good result here for Dan is a good result for the team and for the sponsor.
Yeah, but that's not the way you want to start your weekend. It really isn't, because overtaking here is tough. Traditionally, the races are fairly strung out, so that's not going to be easy for Dan to recover. But with two option tyres, different tyres to use, the soft and the hard, there's plenty of scope for strategy to help him get a good result.
Absolutely right. You might not think 20-minute touring car races are about strategy, but they are. There's far more in this than sometimes you see on the surface. It's not all about endurance racing where strategy plays a part. Right, the Napa Ford's down towards Lodge. Senna Proctor here is the only driver from Team Virtue. He's got nobody to help him with the tow, whereas at least, for example, BMWs can pair up, Toyotas can double up. Dan Lloyd's on his own. The two Power Max Vauxhalls are together as well there, look. BMWs together. So rear wheel drive stay out, front wheel drive will pit. 10 minutes soon whittles by, doesn't it?
It certainly does, and as you say, no problems with the track surface, all dry. The times are competitive, so it's not going to make a lot of difference session on session. But in any case, that won't affect the rest of the qualifying. So, yeah, BMW's working hard. One thing the teams will have done is they'll have passed on information from their Group 1 drivers to Group 2. And I think the particular warning will be track limits. So many times we're lost to track limits in Group 1 that the team managers, the engineers will be on to their drivers, don't waste your laps with track limits. Gordon Shedden, who's been going pretty well so far in free practice, didn't even get a meaningful lap time. No. So you can really blow your weekend just with extra track limits. You've got to be fast, but you've got to be safe.
And yes, you can moan about them, and yes, you can say they're a nuisance, but it's not every driver transgressing. So, you know, clearly some people can do it, others are being a bit more cavalier, and they're the ones that have been bitten. Down the pit lane then come those front-wheel drive cars, Senna Proctor's green Hyundai in the background. If you go back a long, long, long time, you'll find his grandfather racing his Ford Capri here in Rallycross days. There you've got Darrell de Leon, Charles Rainford, Aidan Moffat for BMW all within the group.
Charles Rainford, a nice little distance behind his teammate. Yeah. He's worked that one out very well. He's got enough of a gap to have a tow and someone to chase and to measure off, but not so close it's going to disturb him. Moffat is a little bit further back.
Yeah, that's de Leon. I think Moffat's behind. It's Darrell de Leon at the head of the queue. Then I think it's Moffat and Charles Rainford behind them. But you're right.
Yeah, so it's Moffat that's got the best position.
And de Leon, if you like, is the canary down the mine. He's the first one out there, and he's got no help in all of this. Down to the hairpin he comes then. We'll expect to see BMWs up at the pointy end to begin with, but then wait for those front-wheel drive cars to put themselves into the mix. Dan Camish has got to be one of, if not the driver to watch in all of this, because he comes with a reasonable amount of boost, and he's been so good in qualifying this year. He's taken 2 pole positions out of 4 opportunities.
Well, I mean, unfortunately for Dan Camish, I'm the kiss of death, because Alan Gow asked me who was going to be on pole just before this session started, and I said Dan Camish, but that's going to be the kiss of death. But he has got 7 seconds, and that's quite a chunk.
And he's the man that leads the Goodyear Wingfoot Award based on qualifying efforts over the year. Proctor gets out of the way. Through goes Darrell de Leon. He's on the lights to warn the Toyota there up the road of his impending progress. So Darrell de Leon, a race winner earlier on in the season, don't forget, at Brands Hatch, comes out of Deer Leap, goes up towards the timing line now, and as he breaks the beam, he does a 1:25.202. The best lap we had in the earlier session was a 1:24.166. We're not there yet, but we should get there, if not go faster.
Yeah, their next lap is always the quicker lap after they've dialed their tyres in. So that's a good that's track limits straight away. But that's a good representative lap time.
Max Hall with a bit of a scare before the session started, we understand, with wastegate in the Unlimited Motorsport Cupra. He comes out of Island Bend. There, going up through Knickerbrook, is James Dorlin, who was really impressive, wasn't he, at Thruxton last time out, where we had that very, very wet qualifying session. And James, who's come from a GT background, coming back to the touring car paddock in which he used to race very successfully in Clios, for example. Max Hall being warned about track limits at Old Hall Corner, and Dan Camish goes fastest on a 1:24.875 first effort.
Yeah, still 7 tenths away from the quickest time in in Group 1, so some improvement we would expect, but it's a good early start, early lap. Teammate Osborne second, or was, until James Dorling came across the line, because he's done a 24/7.
So he's a 10th up on Dan Cam. Remember, top 6 we're looking for. Dan Lloyd there, flashing past the camera, goes over the timing line. Got the Toyota through as well. Max Hall's lap was disallowed because he ran wide at Old Hall Corner. Aaron Taylor-Smith, second in FP2, and he goes across the line. He's only 7th on his first effort, but now we are suddenly down to 3 more minutes on the clock. So it's push, push, push. Lloyd goes fastest, a 1:24.6. Bearing in mind his teammate Smiley was quickest in the other group.
Yeah, the Restart Hyundai is going very well indeed. Track limits already starting to come in. We've got one already for Rainford, yeah. I think we saw that, wasn't it? That was turn 1 on the exit of Old Hall.
Yeah, Max Hall had already lost his lap as well, so they're coming thick and fast. Darryl De Leon over Hilltop, down towards us. Aidan Moffat behind him. Aidan, with all due deference, he admits it, he's not the best qualifier, he's a good racer, but here you've got to qualify well. Dan Camish then is the fastest, and he's just gone quicker again on a 24.4 now. He's 2/10ths up the road from Dan Lloyd, and now Sam Osborne has lost a lap for track limits.
Mikey Doble's on a charge. He's set a purple first sector. He's currently 4th, but could easily improve on this lap.
And he's another driver here with masses of boost, so he can use that to his advantage as the blue-bonneted Ford of Dan Camish then comes down towards Island Bend. And again, he's managed to buy the track to himself here. Old Hall Corner seems to be the real danger point here. This is where the drivers are being told they've exceeded track limits before they have that lap taken off them. So Old Hall, quick corner, run wide, and we've seen it happen. You can lose the lap. This is Darryl De Leon's view then as he goes into Old Hall. He's been wide here in the past. That's okay.
Yeah, that was perfect. Left-hand wheels just on the curb but not over it. That's all good. But when you launch the car into the Old Hall corner, you can't see the exit anyway. So once you're into the corner with whatever speed you've carried in, you're pretty much committed.
So Camish, Lloyd, Dorlin, Doble, Osborne, Rainford is the order at the moment. Mikey Doble has had a lap time taken off him as well. So what we're seeing, in the fullness of time, we'll all get updated. So even when the flag goes out, you might need to bear with us just while Craig Smith, the chief timekeeper, goes into the system and takes away these laps that are being disallowed for the track limit offences, and then we'll have the proper situation. But Dan Camish is doing everything right. He's being quick and he's being tidy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you've got to do. Don't lose laps. Well, they've all been guilty of that in the past. Here we go back with Dan Camish. Look how quick that car looks in. That was beautiful. That went through there really nicely. Launched it in. Nice little four-wheel drift. Perfectly out to the exit curb. That was that looked absolutely inch perfect.
And this is the man that's fastest from Dan Lloyd. It's only, however, 72 thousandths of a second between them. This is Darryl De Leon. Now, we have got under a minute to go, and he's only 7th. He goes across the line and stays 7th because Aidan Moffat behind him went 6th.
Yeah, the lap that Doble lost would have put him 2nd. He's now on the bubble. Now he's recovered. He's gone 3rd.
Because Moffat's lap time has been disallowed. So not only did he do a good lap, but he's also benefited from somebody else's misfortune. Right now, it is Camish, Lloyd, Doble, Dorlin, Proctor, Taylor-Smith who have made it through. But there's no guarantee that is going to stay like that, because constantly we're getting these updates now about track limits being abused. Darryl De Leon has lost out. Charles Rainford has lost out. And that is Rainford down at Island Bend. The flag is out. The session is at an end. And the first driver to take it is yet to emerge from Deer Leap. So the lap that Rainford and Doble here are on will count. Sam Osborne is the first driver to take the flag, and he's 6th. So Sam Osborne, for the moment, is in, but that's not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed at all until all these laps are finished.
Camish has gone by, didn't improve, but he's okay. He's quick. It's just very wide at Druids goes Rainford. Bounces it wide, so Charles Rainford here is 7th. This is a really important lap for Rainford. He's desperate to try to get in. James Dorlin 4th pit, so he's okay for the moment as the tail-wagging BMW is full through Lodge Corner. Out of Deer Leap comes Charles Rainford. Was it quick enough? Was it tidy enough? He goes across the line. Rainford stays 7th. Darryl De Leon stays 8th. Charles Rainford across the line, sixth fastest in the end. So what has changed there? Sam Osborne, that's what's changed. Osborne's had his lap taken off him, so Osborne drops out of the top 6.
Yeah, and Proctor, who was in 5th, is now in 7th.
Track limits again, lap time taken off him.
That's a shame, because actually Proctor had done really well at Thruxton to get in the top 6. If he got through in 5th in this group to progress, I thought I would be really impressed. But wow, track limits really the issue in qualifying here.
And seemingly more for this group than the other. At the moment, Moffat, De Leon and Hall are being shown a warning for track limits at turn 2. Now I'm just wondering whether that will manifest into another lap time disappearing. I can offer you the top 6, but I'm taking a bit of a gamble on it.
Yeah, so I'm not right to get down yet.
No, I wouldn't bother. It's a waste of ink.
Of course, there are no warnings in qualifying. The moment you transgress, you lose that lap time. There is no allowance in qualifying whatsoever. Yeah,
there are two lines on the timing system. One gives you the number and it says track limits at turn whichever, and then normally underneath it, if you're losing the lap time, that then has that confirmed. So, provisionally, shall we say, Dan Camish will progress because he is fastest within the second group from Dan Lloyd. Another good effort for the Restart Racing team ahead of Powermax's Mikey Doble. Toyota Gazoo Racing UK's James Dorlin. Another good effort like it was at Thruxton. Aaron Taylor-Smith making it 2 Toyotas in that top 6. And Charles Rainford is in the top 6. Now, this is Dan Lloyd, and there's concern over Dan Lloyd's ride height, I'm assuming. We might need to have another look. And we understand that Dan Lloyd has failed the ride height. So the roller that Phil Danbury, with the shorts on with his back to you, he tries to put that under the car. If it won't fit, the car is too low. And therefore we understand that Dan Lloyd has lost the lap and therefore will go to the back of the grid because he's failed that ride height. So having just said what a good job he'd done to be within 72 thousandths of Dan Camish, suddenly the mood changes in the car, doesn't it? Not for the first time are Restart Racing in strife, thinking about Chris Smiley at Thruxton. And yes, lap disallowed for Dan Lloyd. So this graphic may end up being changed because for the moment it's Camish, Lloyd, Doble, Dorlin, Taylor-Smith and Rainford, but Senna Proctor might have just been given a get-out-of-jail-free card. Sam Osborne from Darrell De Leon and Aidan Moffat completed the top 10 ahead of Max Hall and Nick Halstead. We know, according to the timing screen, that Dan Lloyd's 6th lap time has been disallowed, but he's still being shown within the top 2. Senna Proctor may end up 6th. Yes, quickly to say, Dan Lloyd's lap times have all now disappeared. So Senna Proctor suddenly finds himself back in the top 6, and that, Louise, should make him very happy.
Well, let me just see if I can dive in and grab a word. I love it when I'm the bearer of good news. In fact, I was just telling the guys exactly what had happened. So, Senna, you're back in. Phew, the relief on your face.
Yeah, from having my head in my hands, then you telling me I'm back in, that's, panic station, get some tyres back on and let's go again. It was completely my fault, the first Q1. I messed it up completely with track limits, made it hard for myself, so I'll put it right for the team this one.
Keep it clean this time. Good luck.
So, Q2 ready to go. You know the format, 10 minutes, 12 cars, top 6 go through, and if the first part of qualifying is always about making sure you're in the top 6 and not being slow, now you've got to be quick. Big disappointment for Dan Lloyd, and there you can see the efforts to get the roller underneath.
Interestingly, it's on the side, it's not on the front.
Yeah. And as the scrutineers confer, the message relayed to Sam Riches, who's the one running down the pit lane to give the news. Sam's the technical delegate for the championship, and Dan Lloyd shakes his head, can't believe it after all of that effort. But seeing that Louise has been the bearer of good news to Senna Proctor, we might now challenge her to go and be the bearer of bad news and go and talk to Dan Lloyd. Anyway, in the meantime, green flag at the end of the pit lane. We're in business then for Q2. As out go Sutton and Camish, out go Ingram, Chilton, Morgan, Chris Smiley, then Josh Cook, then Mikey Doble, then James Dorlin, and Charles Rainford's BMW, and now Senna Proctor's Hyundai are going to creep in as well.
Yeah, tie waits for no man. We're straight back on, and Senna Proctor had obviously got out of the car, had to get in very quickly.
So looking down there at Cascades, and here down at Island Bend is Ash Sutton. If you remember, you go straight on there and bear left, you get onto the full international circuit that was used for the BTCC event 7 or 8 years or so ago. great success, so it went back to the hairpin configuration, and certainly a part of the racetrack, but for every category it gives an overtaking opportunity. Then you come down towards his locks, put in after some sizable accidents at Knickerbrook back in 1991 to slow down that section of the circuit, then through Knickerbrook Corner itself and make the climb up Clay Hill. So Ash Sutton heading the queue, but we anticipate the front wheel drive cars, of course, to make that pit stop to cross the tyres, and you can see he's weaving around to try and get warm thin, but we understand it's starting to rain once more.
Well, that may decide, if it, depending on how heavy it is, whether the cars stay out or not. But at the moment, they're coming into the pits. Yep, all the front-wheel drive cars in the pits that I can see.
Yeah, one going out there a bit late. You can see with the rain on the screen. So down the pit road they all come by the end of that lap. But yeah, it's a gamble for the teams, all of this. I mean, the rain isn't that heavy. It is spotting with rain, but it's not amounting to very much. So they'll do the tyre cross and then try and get the warmth back in. I mean, it's such a warm day. Anything that's falling on the ground may well be evaporating pretty quickly.
Well, that looks like Josh Cook has stayed out.
I think what he might be aiming for is a banker lap, just in case the rain does come rather heavier, but Cookie comes into the Island Bend hairpin.
He's obviously got good grip even at the rear. You can see him leaning on it now. In these temperatures, the rear should warm up very quickly.
Yeah, a tough session for him earlier on in the day, wasn't it, to be 17th in second free practice that determined the groups. Down he comes in towards his loops and gets a little bit crossed up there. But you were saying something about grip.
Yes, well, obviously on the left rear is the tyre that actually gets worked the hardest. So, but when you turn into the hairpit or the chicane there, you're putting a lot of load on it, and clearly it wasn't quite up to temperatures. Here he can lean on it. Yeah. You get a little bit of a feel for it when you just turn the wheel to start with, and then you can really push on it. But in a tight corners, you can't feel it enough.
So what he wants here is this banker lap and then the heavens to open, and that'll keep him up at the top of the times. But wheel lifting, he comes out of Lodge Corner, up Deer Leap, and with times so far being in the 24s, with Chris Smiley being quicker than Dan Camish, that's a 26. So it's a fairly gentle lap, but there might be that psychological rain to factor in. It doesn't look like it's really developing, in fairness, as over the line goes Charles Rainford's BMW. And that goes fastest now on a 1:26.1, so a tenth quicker than Cook. Wiper on, though.
Yeah, wiper on, but as you say, the heavens haven't really opened. We haven't got a deluge yet. The track is still consistent unless we get further around and hit a wall of water, which, if it does arrive, always seems to arrive at the Knickerbrook chicane. But so far, it's okay. Sutton goes across the line, goes third.
Does indeed. So Ash Sutton through into then Old Hall Corner.
But really, he's only just starting his proper lap now, because obviously he did tyre cross, so that was his out lap. Now he's onto a flyer, and look, the car looks really well hooked up there through Cascades.
And Josh Cook's done another absolute best within the first sector. There is Ash Sutton with the single wiper on, coming down towards Island Bend. This is Cook. So this again is going to offer you a benchmark time potentially with 5 minutes and change on the clock. So we're rattling through this session as on the lights is Cook. He does not want Mikey Doble to be in the way. Mikey is experienced enough in all of this. He will turn through Lodge Corner and then hopefully get out of the way without compromising the start of his lap. In fairness, Josh is not really on top of him yet as they come out of Deer Leap. Through they go, and Aaron Taylor-Smith goes fastest briefly. Josh Cook now does a 1:25.0, a second clear of anybody else.
This is a really tough qualifying session. To get in the 6 out of this, you know, any one of these guys could be on pole potentially. Look at the rain, it's just about the same amount, isn't it? But that's a good time from Cookie. I think staying out definitely helped him get his tyres in. We'll have to see what the likes of Sutton can do on this lap. Obviously, he's on a personal best. Further back, I see Smiley, quickest to remember in Group 2, on an absolute best in Sector 1. So Smiley's definitely a man to watch as we look at Aaron Taylor-Smith. This is Sutton across the line. He goes quickest with a 24.6.
And that means he's 3 tenths faster than Cook. Rainford is no longer third because Dan Cam goes third. But Camish has the lap disallowed. It was track limits at Old Hall Corner. So having said how good he was in the first part of qualifying, there's a block on the copybook as Tom Ingram now goes second fastest. Sutton, Ingram, Cook, Rainford, Taylor-Smith are the 5 with a time. And now it is Adam Morgan up to third, making it 6 with the time. This is Chris Smiley, fastest in FP2, fastest in the first part of qualifying in his group. Fights the Hyundai then, through Lodge Corner, up towards Deer Lee now, heads through that jet to the left, up towards the timing line. Where does Smiley blend into all of this? He goes across the line, fastest of all, 1:24.3, and then he loses the lap, track limits.
Yeah, that was already, he was already came up as track limits. So that, as you say, the next line on the TSL graphics is lap disallowed.
So the other one is Senna Proctor, something about keeping it clean, he said to Louise. Well, he also has had a lap taken off him. That was from Old Horn. Old Horn Corner is the perennial problem in all of this. As Sutton then is the fastest and he comes down towards Lodge. He has been put back to the top of the times with Smiley losing that lap. This is Sutton's view. Heads up to the line. He will break the beam any second now. And that lap is faster again. It's a 1:24.484. And then he's lost the lap for track limit offences. It was Old Hall Corner.
Turn 1 every time. This is it. This is Camish, who's just gone quickest, and certainly on that lap through the hairpin or through Old Hall, he was absolutely fine. Ingram beats that time now. Ingram has gone to the top at 24.4.
And Chris Smiley has done an absolute best in the first sector. So Sutton warned about track limits then in number 1:16. He's down to 4th now. Ash Sutton with his 1 second per lap available to boost. We're looking for Smiley to get a time. We're looking for Proctor to get a time. We've had an improvement from Morgan. We've had an improvement from Chilton as well. And all of a sudden, Sutton finds himself down to 5th. Smiley goes quickest. Does the lap survive? A 1:24.132. That's the best of qualifying.
That's a really good lap time. I'm glad Smiley was able to pull that together. There are no warnings coming up on the screen, so really good effort by Smiley. Yes, he's got the maximum amount of boost. Yes, he's got a quick Hyundai, but he looks like he's backed off as well now. He's happy with that time.
Yeah.
That should get him through.
So we understand
I think he had a moment.
Yeah. Senna Proctor, another lap disallowed. He hasn't got a time here, so Proctor. Wow, that was a slide and a half, wasn't it, from Chris Smiley? Wow.
Well held. Well held, that man.
Blimey. Right, put those tyres in the bin.
Yeah, he quickly turned the lights off and thought, yep, I've had enough, thank you very much. That time is good enough to get me in the top 6. I'll go back to the pits and just have a little chat.
Go to the pits, he'll be going to the laundrette after that. The pits. That was quite a moment for Chris Smiley. So huge slide coming out of Cascade. Now this is Josh Cook, who is 7th. So Cook is the one to watch. He's got to try somehow to get himself back in. At the moment, he's 91 thousandths down on Tom Chilton, but this is not the lap on which he can do it because he's down in both of the sectors. Unless it's a mega third sector, we're not expecting him to improve, but he will have one more lap to get out of the session. Look, as the car now comes up through the left of Deer Lee, over the line goes Josh Cook. Yeah, it was slower. One more shot at this.
Unfortunately, he's had the best of those tyres because he's been out since the word go pushing. It's the soft tyres. The rain didn't come that would have actually helped him if he'd done his lap time early on. So he's had the best of those tyres. The left front takes quite a pounding round here. And the soft tyres, Proctor goes 7th, but it's not enough to get in the top 6.
Chris Smiley has just come down the pit lane. Hear his heart pounding from here after that moment. This is Ash Sutton heading up towards the pit lane. And he's in, he's 2nd. Senna Proctor has gone 7th, but it's not good enough. But it's Proctor, Cook, Rainford, Doble, Taylor Smith and Dorlin who are the ones that at the moment are going to be bumped out. Senna Proctor, track limits turn 1. Senna Proctor, lap time disallowed. He's back down to 12th.
Back down to the bottom. He wasn't in anyway, but that does affect the grid position if he doesn't improve.
Yeah, exactly. But how many laps has Senna lost in this? It's at least 3.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
This is Cook, who's still pressing on, look. Now on this lap, Josh down in 1, down in 2, but he's not given up, seemingly, as he comes through Druids. If he can get that mega third sector, it might just be enough to give him the time that he needs, as now we've had another change, haven't we, to get into the top 6. James Dorlin goes 6th, and he takes the flag. James Dorlin is in, so Cook's down to 8th, and as he crosses the line, Josh Cook stays 8th.
Yeah, that was too late. Aaron Taylor Smith lost to that time, but he was out anyway. So it looks like the order for going through into the final 6 will be Smiley, Sutton, Morgan, Ingram, Camish and Dorlin, the final car through. Chilton is out, Cookie is out, Charles Rainford is out, Senna Proctor is out, Mikey Doble is out, and so is Aaron Taylor-Smith. But in that session, Chris Smiley set the fastest lap we've seen so far, 24.132.
And James Dorlin mirroring what he did at Thruxton by being the best of the qualifiers for T-Ruck, Toyota Racing UK, and a really impressive job done once more by James Dorlin. So drivers making their way round to the pit lane. Aaron Taylor-Smith will be frustrated. Lots of guests here this weekend with his various sponsors, and for Toyota, even though for the drivers geographically it's not necessarily a home circuit, it is very much for the team, based about 10 miles away down the road. Mikey Doble there is out, surprisingly actually, only 11th. But let's have a look at the drivers then that do go through. Chris Smiley, Ash Sutton, Adam Morgan are through. So is Tom Ingram, so is Dan Camish, so is James Dorlin. Tom Chilton is out, Josh Cook's out, so is Charles Rainford. Senna Proctor eventually pieced a lap together to be 10th ahead of Mikey Doble. Aaron Taylor-Smith in 12th. It's been a dramatic session, hasn't it? That is for sure. And Chris Smiley then topping two separate elements of it. So he will go into Q3 along with Sutton, Morgan, Ingram, Camish and Dorlin. Rapid turnaround for the cars as the final few arrive. And now 6 cars for the final 10 minutes. And don't forget that there is that point for pole position, which will always matter towards the end of the year. Josh Cook arrives at the One Motorsport pit area. Tough return to the championship for One Motorsport this year.
Yeah, they've been trying some stuff this weekend on the installation, i.e. engine installation, which is all to improve airflow, thermal temperatures of the engine, which affects power and would be particularly important this weekend in this heat. So they've been trying some different things. That team never stopping work, as all the teams do, and Cookie certainly giving it his all behind the wheel, but not quite enough to get through. And Jade will show him the lap times and talk him through that session from how she saw it. Certainly she's been a big help to Josh Cook, close friends in the paddock.
And Ryan Bensley as well, mortgage advisor to the Stars. We saw a race at Snetterton, but a rather frustrated Josh Cook, to say the least. And you could see the way the car was being driven. He wasn't leaving anything on the table, so to be only 8th will be massively disappointing for him. And Louise is poised, ready to, well, share in the disappointment maybe, Lou.
Well, I'd imagine so. I mean, look at the look on your face, Josh, I think shows you your disappointment. I gave it all on that final run, but nothing left in the tyres at that point.
Yeah, obviously it started raining at the beginning, so took the decision to push on when the tyres weren't quite ready, so took the best out of them at the beginning. But the car was pretty good, the balance was nice, could make it do what I wanted. Yeah, went for everything on that last lap to try and find the difference, but it's just not there. I mean, it's easy to overdrive when you start looking for time that you can't find in the corners. So a couple of little bits that we still need to work on. But yeah, a bit frustrating. But for me, those laps I did were as good as any ones that I put on pole. So I'm pleased with my job. But yeah, we're not quite there yet.
I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but if you had crossed the tyres at the beginning, do you think that the time would have come, or is that not the issue today?
We had them on as marked because I still had hot rears from the session. So we weren't compromised in terms of our strategy, but I couldn't bring the fronts in as slow as I perhaps would have liked. But of course, it was still pretty quick. But yeah, a couple of small issues that we need to sort out, which obviously make things frustrating. But on the whole, I'm pleased with the way that I performed in the car. I'm pleased with the job that we've done on the chassis. We've made it better all day. But yeah, obviously disappointing to not make it through when you know that it was there. So yeah, got a little bit of work to do overnight, and then hopefully we can race tomorrow.
See you out there.
Cheers.
So Josh Cook is, like the rest of us now, a spectator, and as the 6 for the final part of qualifying go down the pit lane. Remember, we're looking for Chris Smiley and Ash Sutton, Adam Morgan and Tom Ingram, Dan Camish and James Dorlin. In other words, you've got 2 from Napa Racing UK, 2 from Team Virtue, 1 from Toyota Gazoo Racing UK and 1 from Restart Racing. And the Restart Racing car of Chris Smiley, of course, in that independent competition
Yeah, interesting. In this top 6, there are only 2 cars that have the maximum amount of boost. That's Chris Smiley with the 15 seconds and James Dorlin with the 15 seconds. Everybody else has a restricted amount of boost, and that's perhaps why Smiley's been going so well. He's set the fastest time in both of his last 2 sessions, so he's got to be a favourite for this, but track limits is really going to be a factor. You don't want to lose your best lap when your tyres are at their best through a mistake on track limits.
Smiley and Dorlin, the 2 drivers in this who have never had a pole position for a qualifying session. But that is about to change. Up Clay Hill then goes the pack, headed by Ash Sutton. A day of practice this morning with qualifying sessions, and then some races this afternoon as well as the touring car qualifying session for the fans. So Sutton comes down now towards the right of Lodge Corner, flicks the headlights on. So are we going to see him bail for the pit lane or go on to a flying lap? Normally when the lights are on, it means a qualifying lap's coming up, but 1 or 2 behind and not venturing to do that with the lights. We see the cars come over the line, so Sutton and Camish are staying out there, interestingly.
Yeah, so what they've chosen to do is to leave the rear tyres on that were warm from the last session, because the degradation in the rear tyres is very small. So you bolt a brand new set of fronts on, leave the rears on that are already warm. Oh, big slide though, over the limit there, but he doesn't go off, so he doesn't get dirt on his tyres. He's got another lap to go, but that way you don't have to do the tyre swap, but he's wasted this lap, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has, I'm afraid. So Ash Sutton loses the impetus on this lap. There into the pit lane comes Chris Smiley, and that car has the tyres crossed. Smiley having looked really impressive all day long, going really well around here in the Restart Racing Hyundai, the team benefiting from the help of Matt Neal in the background.
Having said that, that slide sort of indicated that perhaps he did have new rears on and just chose not to pit and cross them over. And Sutton behind him, Dan Cavish, wasn't on a push lap either. So maybe they have got new tyres and just decided to do something different to get the balance right.
Well, we've got 7 more minutes of the session to go then. Let's have another look at the Ash Sutton moment. It was down at Cascades. This is on board.
Great shot on board, leaning on that right rear, which is the coldest tyre on the car because it does the least amount of work, and he does have a big slide, but as I said, didn't go off, didn't get dirt on the tyres.
So this is Ash Sutton at work then as he heads over the timing line. The lap that he does is a 28.8, but that's certainly going to be bettered as he goes then out of Old Hall Corner. Dan Camish is behind him. He's done his start-up lap, if you like, getting the tyres up to temperature all the time. We're down to 6.5 on the clock here.
Yeah, no track limits. Key point there from turn 1. Old Hall, we saw that from outside. This is back on board with Sutton popping over that crest and down on the brakes, down to second gear, using the torque of the engine to pull it out. Now he might deploy that little 1 second of boost as he goes uphill. Not that it's going to gain him a lot, but he may well use it there. In fact, he has, because he's got none left.
So there, coming out of the Hislop chicane is Ash Sutton. Camish behind him has gone faster. He's done an absolute best rather than a personal best. So Camish going a little bit quicker than Sutton on this lap. 6 cars on circuit. We're looking at the Napa Racing Ford of Ash Sutton, his teammate Dan Camish behind. You've got Adam Morgan, Tom Ingram, James Dorlin and Chris Smiley to factor into the mix as well. 5.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, well, Camish has got 7 seconds of boost. That's 6 more than teammate Camish. So we'll see what their respective lap times are when they come across the line. It'll be Sutton that crosses the line first. Here we are back on board. He comes across the line. This is a 24.4, followed by Camish, who goes quicker with a 24.3.
And we understand from Louise in the pit lane that both of the Fords kept hot rear tyres on from Q2. So Camish then, fastest. No massive surprise, potentially, given that he's taken 2 pole positions out of the 4 qualifying sessions thus far. Let's see what the rest can do. That's the car of James Dorlin, look, coming down now into his locks. Dorlin chasing after Adam Morgan, and we're down to just under 5 minutes then. So into the second half of this final part of qualifying. Camish to Sutton, 0.125 of a second. But Tom Ingram, absolute best sector 1. Absolute best sector 2 for Tom Ingram then. James Dorlin on the edge as he goes up through the right-hander there. You've got this Hyundai of Ingram coming through Druids now, under the vehicle bridge, down towards Lodge Corner. So Tom Ingram with 2 absolute bests, looking to get himself up to the top of the times. Remember, he's only got 3 seconds of boost per lap. He's chasing after Adam Morgan, who's just gone 3rd. James Dorlin has gone through and gone 2nd, and Ingram will break the beam, and as he does so, goes fastest with 3 absolute bests. The perfect lap for Tom Ingram. It's the best of the day, a 1:23.856. Then Tom Ingram into the 23s, and a spin for Morgan coming out of Old Hall corner.
Well, that puts a yellow flag out there, so nobody could go quicker on this lap if they're following that. But that's an incredible lap time. That's the fastest lap time we have ever seen around this circuit from Tom Ingram, with barely 3 seconds of boost. And get this, he's nearly half a second quicker than Camish. Sutton had to abort the lap because of the yellow flag, so he's still got time for another lap. But whether the tyres have got a good time in it or not, I don't know.
Smiley, lap disallowed for track limit offences. Adam Morgan, having got himself off the grass, was going jolly slowly, as though it was a problem to put him onto the grass. But he may just now had to accept that he's had a spin. The tyres will have become rather grubby, and maybe that's it. He just needs to bring it back to the pit lane. Smiley then becomes the next one to watch to see what the lap time is going to be when he manages to achieve one, because he's still being shown as having transgressed at turn 1. So I'm not totally convinced this lap's going to stay either, with 3 minutes to go.
Quite possibly. This is that man Ingram. I can't really see anybody beating that time, but he's putting the lights on, ready to have another go.
But he's nearly half a second up on anybody else. 0.489, yeah. Massive margin. Here is Ingram. This lap ain't quite so quick, but doesn't need to be necessarily. Through he goes. That was a 29.1, so he'd certainly backed it off. 2.5 minutes to go. Morgan up to 5th, and then he fell off. So Adam Morgan, having just done his best lap at the session, then had a moment. This is Ingram, and he's back on the money this time, isn't he? Down to Cascades, one last push.
Yeah, we'll get the first split time when he comes across it as he goes down towards the island hairpin. That's where the split time comes in, and he's just about to cross it, and it's not even a personal best, so it's a slower lap.
Smiley goes 2nd though. Chris Smiley up to 2nd fastest, and the lap stays, whereas Dan Camish's lap doesn't. So Camish has a lap time taken off him, and at the moment we've got now 2 minutes to go, and we're looking for green sectors. Well, we're not getting one out of Camish because he's bailed, and I think he's another one having to content himself with what he's got. This is Ash Sutton coming out of Island Bend. Sutton is 4th. He'll want better than that if he can do it.
He will, especially now Ingram's on pole. He'd like to get in that half second at least. That half-second gap, although slightly less than that, 0.47 now to Smiley, who's in 2nd place. Camish has had track limits, but that's on this lap. I think the lap he did previously to go 3rd will stand.
Yeah. Indeed so. Camish then behind Smiley and Ingram, ahead of Sutton, Dorlin and Morgan.
Morgan sets his personal best in Sector 1 and the fastest speed trap in Sector 1, and the fastest speed trap in Sector 2, so Morgan could improve his position.
Yeah, it's going to be a good lap, barring a mistake in the 3rd sector. This is Morgan. Look, you can see that perfect lap of Tom Ingram's from earlier on, with him heading all 3 sectors. James Dorlin's lap has just been disallowed in the Toyota number 132, so that's going to put him 6th, potentially, given what Morgan does here. Up he comes, Adam Dear Leap. Ash Sutton's just about to go across the line, stays 4th. Adam Morgan goes through, stays 6th. And he's had his lap time disallowed, that's why. So Adam Morgan then goes to do a 1:24.5, which would have put him, actually, would have only been good enough for 6th anyway, but he doesn't keep that lap, so he's still 6th on a slower lap, if that makes sense. So all the effort, I'm afraid, didn't pay dividends in any respect.
No, apart from the 0.47 to 1st to 2nd, Ingram to Smiley, the rest are all within a 10th.
And Ingram did that, 3 seconds of boost a lap. This is Smiley with 15 a lap. So yet again, the Tom Ingram Spencer Aldridge alliance have managed to engineer a really well hooked up Hyundai. They were hoping for it to be dry, didn't want those pesky, greasy, wet conditions that we look like we might have at lunchtime. So flag is out, James Dorlin takes it, and this is Chris Smiley, who is pressing on. Look, he's improved again in the 1st sector. I'm not suggesting he's going to displace Ingram, but he might narrow the gap a little bit as he comes. No, he won't. He's down in sector 2. In fact, he's just broken the beam. So Chris Smiley, still a really good effort, this.
Very good. He's been strong all the way through. Morgan flashing his lights because he's desperate to get a clean lap in, hopefully without track limits. But it's so close amongst that top 6, or the top 2nd to 6th. Let's see if he improves on this lap. And he doesn't, despite setting a personal best again.
Yeah. He was down in the third sector, so he could have perhaps gone even better. He is 99 thousandths away from James Dorlin, but this is the man of the session. Tom Ingram, fastest, and that for him is an 11th career pole. Assuming that the roller goes under Chris Smiley's car, unlike his teammates, then that's a really, now another lap has just disappeared for Chris Smiley, but his best was on lap 4 and it's lap 6 that's disallowed. He's okay, but Chris Smiley, second, another really impressive effort, that.
Yeah, and less than a tenth between second and sixth. So that makes the 4/10 or nearly 5/10 that Ingram has in front even more impressive. That's a hell of a lap.
So Ash Sutton going through the technical checks. And Phil Danbury there with his back to you. We'll put the Park Fairmay conditions board on the car. So with a new qualifying best ever lap, Tom Ingram tops the times ahead of the best of the independents in qualifying Chris Smiley. Dan Camish third ahead of Ash Sutton, with James Dorlin fifth and sixth going the way of Adam Morgan. So Tom Ingram taking an 11th career pole, the first of the year, is all good for Chris Smiley's good day. Looks like it is, as the scales are placed underneath and the car will in a moment be brought forward. Marshals give it a push, up it comes. Weight is taken, and that data goes through the TOCA technical system, and then the car will be released to the team, but under Park Fairmay conditions, which means nobody can touch it, in case the scrutineers need to go back and have a closer look at anything. So Tom Ingram then, the fastest. He is in the queue look, ready for those scrutineering checks. Chris Smiley motors down the pit road. And the roller of doom arrives, ready for the next car, Tom Ingram's Hyundai. That is pushed into place. Just thinking, it looked ever so fractionally lopsided there, like it was lower on one side of the left than it was on the right.
I think that's just when it's got the lock on, when the steering lock's on, it does that.
And the roller goes underneath the front perfectly acceptably, so that's all good. So that ride height check, make sure the car complies with the regulations, and thumbs up, then the weight will be taken, and the cars out of the top three will make their way into the Park Fairmay area, and hopefully Louise is going to be able to have a word with a very happy Tom Ingram, a very happy Chris Smiley, and Dan Camish's mood will be reflective maybe, because he was really quick early on in the Q1, Q2 parts of qualifying, but the track limit errors, dare one call them, seem to creep in that last bit.
And sometimes you have to temper your driving just to get that lap time in. But he'll be happy. He's second row. It's a good place to start the first race.
And I know we say this after every session, but you've always got people out of position, so it does give a good grid for the first race, which is the real aim of this start of qualifying. So there is Tom Ingram's car then. It's been released through into the Park Fairmay area. Nicky Butler from Goodyear just checking the tyre information, the tyre pressures at the end of that session. And we'll be able to hear from Tom Ingram in a moment or two, because as the door opens and the belts are undone and all the housekeeping is done of the cables being unplugged, he threads his way between the cage and the roof, jumps out of the car, lots of Tingram support as ever, and another pole position, another trophy for the collection, because that Goodyear Wingfoot Award will go his way. And Tom Ingram all thumbs up, makes the walk away from the car in a moment, and it is pole position then for Tom Ingram. Louise is there.
20 seconds.
The man says, "Oh, I'll be 20." Yeah, he says I'll be 20 seconds, just as he throws down to me. But understandably, Tom wanting to celebrate his first pole position of the year with the team, getting in there for a hug with Sandra. Are you ready for me now? You fit me into your hectic schedule. I mean, I'm not surprised you want to celebrate though. Congratulations, your first pole position of the year, your first Goodyear Wingfoot pole position trophy. But I have to say, almost half a second, you absolutely blitzed that.
It was honestly, Lou, that was unbelievable, quite frankly. It just was the most hooked up thing I ever had. I seemed to have limitless grip. We bolted on the new softs then.
and I just seemingly had limitless grip. It was absolutely outrageous. You know, the corner speed that we're carrying, the momentum that we're carrying, the braking performance, absolutely outrageous. Just hooked up beyond all reasonable doubt. And I could get to I think I got to a flat on my next lap, so not quite able to match it again. But as Team Virtue, we've done an absolute cracking job there, and big thanks to these guys.
Had you changed something after FP2 to get that little bit extra, or just did it all come together inside the car?
Yeah, we tweaked after FP1, which really improved the car. We then didn't really get a chance to see it in FP2 because of the weather. So by the time it all sort of fell into our hands a little bit in that final run, then when it just was dry enough, I was waiting for it just to come and rain on our parade a little bit. So to manage to get it linked up and get it all hooked together, and around somewhere like this that is not only hot but a difficult circuit to link together. I'm proper chuffed with that. Thank you very much.
Much cooler conditions forecast tomorrow, possibly rain as well. So is that likely to rain on your parade, or do you think it's going to be a quick car in the cooler conditions?
I think we'll be quick in the cool conditions, and I think we'll be quick in the greasy conditions. We saw at Thruxton that I think we found some performance in the wet weather, which was our Achilles heel last year. We'll see what it comes. The rain has been in and out all day today as well. We couldn't really decide what it was going to do. It rained 1 minute. Our weather apps are saying it's going to rain, and then it doesn't. And it feels stormy. It feels close. It feels just a bit sweaty, quite frankly. And we're about 30 odd degrees up on ambient temperature in the car. So we're I feel suitably ready for a lie down and the post-quali cake club to commence.
I've seen the cake. Trust me, he's got a good cake waiting for
So
him.
it's a mighty good cake, I must say.
Good stuff. You've deserved it. Right, let's go and have a word with Chris Smiley, who is going to be starting alongside Tom on the front row. Fantastic result. I mean, you've been threatening it all day, but to get up on the front row and delivering qualifying when it counts, that must feel good.
Yeah, qualifying's been my issue all year. We've been mighty fast on the Sunday, but not good enough on the Saturday. And a little bit of that is, this is only our 5th race weekend with this car. All these other guys have had these cars for years, and they know how to get those last few tenths out of it. So yeah, today, me and Martin and Ben, my engineers, we know amazing job, to start in the front row. It's my best qualifying since 2019, so yeah, really, really pleased about that.
What about translating it? It's a quick quali car. Is it going to be a quick race car?
Yes, very much so. And tomorrow we've got plenty off the little button. We've got plenty of boost for race 1. So yeah, around here I think you'll find that's going to be quite powerful.
I mean, I'm hearing 8 tenths a lap. That can make a difference. That boost. What's that going to be like in the race? Because obviously it's a different setup or different usage of that boost in race versus a qualifying lap.
If it makes 8 tenths, that means I would be. If it means it was 8 tenths, Tom should have done a 23 flat. I don't think it's as much as that.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say probably 3-4 tenths around here. I would say. But yeah, I think in the race it's going to make a bigger difference in the race because 15 laps around here, there's plenty of things can happen. So yeah, really excited for the 3 races tomorrow. So yeah, can't wait.
One final quick question. We obviously saw your teammate Dan have an issue with the ride height. Was there any concerns from your side about that, or was that just something that had happened to Dan on his own lap?
They didn't tell me anything about that. That's I feel sorry for Dan that's happened to him because Dan also today has had great pace. But yeah, no, I didn't need to know that information. A lot going on there. I was concentrating on what I had to do, so I didn't really need a distraction like that. We had a slight issue with the weight in the car at Thruxton, and it chucked me out of race 3. So yeah, the boys have been extra vigilant today, and they've done a great job.
Well done. Right, where's Dan Camish? I can't see him anywhere. Over to my left. Yes, I can see him. There he is over there besides Ash. Dan, come over and grab a word, Dan. Come round this way. Well done. I mean, P3. Yeah. The quickest of the Napa cars, that's a good result.
It's a great result, it really is. I think we put everything on it, everything out there on the line. I don't think there's much left in mine. I think there was maybe a smidge at the hairpin. You're up going in and you're not quite so up coming out, and you kick yourself for a few seconds, then recover, and then the rest of it was really clean. So did we have enough for the front row? I think we did. Tom, by the time, I've just found out the lap time, that's a bit of a different planet to where I was. So I'm really pleased. I'll get a good night's sleep and see if we can take it to him in the morning. It's, we're consistently at the top. I haven't qualified outside the top 5 yet, so that's a good first half of the year, and I'm proud of that. So I think the whole team can be.
You were one of quite a few drivers who were losing times because of track limits. Was that in your mind in that final session?
Not really. I think what amazes me is that we got some circuits which I would call slightly simpler, and the gaps are bigger. And then you come here, which is incredibly technical, and there's nothing in it. So we kind of do a lap that you go, that's a good lap. And then you think, where can I steal a bit? You know, you got to kind of put your thinking cap on. You know, the 10 minutes allows us a couple of laps, at least one, where you can just explore and, you know, you're sort of doing the data in between sessions. The guys do it frantically, try to help you as best they can. Look down, we've looked at Ashes, looked at Robos. There's a smidge in here. See if you can go learn, but you have got to learn. You know, sometimes you go, oh, that was good. And other times you go, yeah, I've missed that corner. I'll try again next time. So, you know, I'm, you know, fairly happy. And yeah, we've got a good routine going in quali. You know, we kind of improve every session, which I think is always important. You know, this sort of style of qualifying that moves through 3 stages, I think really suits how I want to drive the car. It allows me to banker fast, and then I peak right at the last minute and hopefully show my hand. So yeah, enjoyable day.
And obviously, strategy-wise, tomorrow the tyres are back into play. So, any thoughts yet, or would you sit down and look at that this evening, tomorrow morning?
Nightmares. I'll be honest, you know, I don't want to tell you what I want to do, but if I finish 4th, it wouldn't be end of world, would it? You know, ultimately, I know from Snetterton how it can change, how quickly you can go from being one of the fastest cars on the grid to feeling like you're in one of the slowest, and it's nothing to do with the car itself. It's just the round circly bits. So yeah, and it's, you know, you don't know what other people are doing. Everyone's got their own race going on. There's some independent races going on, some Jack Sears stuff. You know, you can sit there thinking, I think I've made the right call, and then you roll onto the grid and everyone's done the opposite, and yeah, wish you hadn't have bothered. So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of the engineers will lose a bit of sleep tonight over it, but yeah, ultimately I think we got to. I've always felt that you should race the points that are in front of you. Because, you know, you can try and reverse it and try and think, I'll be really good in the last race. Well, who knows what could happen tomorrow? It's touring car racing. You know, the amount of times that I thought that, and then in race 3, something out of your control happens, and you've waited all day for something that never happened. So it's tough.
We'll leave it there. Apart from anything else, my legs are burning on this car behind me. So back to you guys. Well done. Back to you guys.
Yes, all in the line of duty, Louise, having to be attacked by touring cars. Right, Dan Camish then ending up 3rd, and it's pole position then for Tom Ingram, the 11th of his career. And that all sets us up for what should be a great day of racing here at Alton Park. It's going to be live all day, starting at 11:35 over on ITV4 tomorrow. The support race content, the Porsche Sprint Challenge is in town for the Caymans with British F4 and the Mini Challenge as well. So lots of good racing to look forward to as we round out the first half of the championship season. We'll see you tomorrow morning then from Alton Park. For now, though, from Louise Goodman, Tim Harvey and David Addison, it's goodbye.